When he came inside, Kathryn was laying on the floor in the living room, face down, in a pool of her own blood, clutching a telephone in her hand. She was in and out of consciousness at that point.
And was she able to communicate with this officer?
Yes. He asked her what had happened to her. She was able to lift up her blouse and show him some stab wounds on her abdomen area. And he was able to get from her her name, and he was able to ask her if she knew who the perpetrator was, and she said no.
And she was bleeding profusely, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, Dennis Rader was arrested, and he was interviewed by law enforcement on February 25th of this year and then into the 26th, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, were you present when Dennis Rader was interviewed by law enforcement?
Yes.
And did you speak with Rader specifically about the murder of Kathryn Bright?
Yes, I did.
And during the course of that, it was videotaped?
Correct.
And you have reviewed the videotape?
Yes.
Now, in this PowerPoint presentation that's going to be coming up here, we're going to have photographs of the crime scene, some autopsy photographs, and we're going to have some quotes that were pulled out, quotes by Dennis Rader that were pulled out from the interview. So at various times I'm going to ask you to take a look behind you and ask you some questions about what's up on the scene. Okay?
Okay.
Now, you told Dennis Rader that you were there to talk to him about the Kathy Bright case.
That's correct. I went and introduced myself, told him who I was, told him I was with the Wichita Police Department, told him that I had been inside the Kathy Bright homicide. And that was just introductions that I made before the interview.
And right after telling him that your case is the Kathy Bright case, I believe there's something up on the screen. Do you recall what Dennis Rader had to say about Kathy Bright?
Yes. He commented, "Sweet kid," and asked me, "Well, what do you want to know about it?" I told him I just wanted to know about what occurred. And then he told me that he'd called her Project Lights Out. And then he discussed with me about the date that occurred, which was April 4th, 1974.
So again, going back, he's got projects. Those are his names for the people he hunted, stalked, trolled after, whatever you want to call them.
Correct, and he would call them projects or PJs for short.
And Kathy Bright was a sweet kid, and she was Project Lights Out.
Right.
Now, behind you there's a photograph. Can you tell us who that is a photograph of?
Yes, that is a photo of Kathryn Bright.
And when Kathryn Bright was murdered, how old was she?
21 years of age.
Now, did Rader tell you how he came upon or selected Kathy Bright?
He said he was driving through the area one day and spotted her going inside the house with a friend. Now,
did he say what he was doing? Did he have a name for it?
Yes, I believe he said he was trolling at that point.
And did he say why he was drawn to Kathy Bright?
He said that she fit that profile.
And did he explain to you what the profile might be?
He said that he couldn't really explain what it was, but it was just something about her that drew his attention to her.
But it was the BTK profile is what he would explain later.
Right.
Now, when he said he was out trolling and when he wanted to actually act upon his projects, when he had planned to kill somebody, did he tell you what he did to get ready for that?
Yes, he would. Usually the trolling stage would then move to the stalking stage, where he would conduct surveillance on his potential victims, walking around the area. He said he actually set off her house in his car and watched the comings and goings from the house.
And did he do any kind of exercises to get ready to strangle somebody?
Yes.
And what did he do?
He said he would sit around with a squeeze ball, and he demonstrated that he would use the squeeze ball, squeezing it to get his hand strength up to where he would be able to strangle someone. He explained the reason for that was because it was extremely difficult to strangle a person, that your hands would become numb, and that sometimes it would take 2 to 3 minutes to actually strangle someone.
So he wanted to work out to get ready to kill somebody.
Right.
Now, this is a photograph. Can you tell us what this is a photograph of?
Yes, this is a photograph depicting the front of the residence at 3217 East 13th Street here in Wichita. This is where Kathryn Bright was murdered.
And this door here that I'm circling with the cursor, would that be the door that Officer Landon went into?
Yes.
Now, again, you've talked a little bit about it, about trolling. Is that correct? These are some of the things he told you about what he did.
Right.
And he even said he went up to the house and knocked a few times.
Yes, he said he'd went to her house, knocked a couple times, and no one had answered the door.
And on this day, where he decided he was going to kill Kathryn Bright, did he tell you how he got ready for that? There's a quote up behind you.
Basically, again, this is describing that he saw her go into the house. One day he thought to himself, well, this might work. And that after Otero, he had his stuff ready to go. He would have items with him, tape, ropes, binding material, whatever he might need for what he called a hit, and he would carry that stuff around with him.
And he picked Kathy Bright out, and he decided that he was going to, that this, gee whiz, this might work.
Right.
And did she say anything about her brother Kevin?
Yes, he said that he wasn't aware that she had a brother.
In his trolling that he did, and in stalking of her, he didn't discover whether she had a brother.
Right. He said that he was particularly concerned when he was in the stalking stage or picking a potential victim about whether or not they had what he called a present male. He wanted to avoid a present male in the home due to the confrontation that he had had at Otero with Mr. Otero.
He was afraid of men. Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
And this is a photograph of Kevin Bright.
That's correct.
How old was Kevin Bright when Rader came into their home, killed his sister, and shot him?
Kevin was 19 at that time.
Did Rader indicate to you how he intended? He had what I believe has been testified to before. He had things that he called a rus. Is that correct?
Yeah, a ruse or rus is what he referred to, which was actually a ruse.
Yeah, we might know it as a ruse,
Right.
And but he called it a rus. Did he indicate to you what rus he was going to use on the Brights?
Yes, he was going to carry some books, like school textbooks, with him. He would pretend that he was a WSU student looking for somebody's house in order to study or work on a project.
And did he tell you that this was his plan? Did he tell you whether he actually did it?
Yes, he said the day that he murdered Kathryn Bright, that he had taken some books with him to use that as his ruse to get into the house.
Now, he describes to you in a matter-of-fact manner how he killed Kathryn Bright. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so when he's describing to you how he went up there to the porch with his school books, and he says things like, lo and behold, right?
Right.
And what did he find out about the screen door in the back?
He went back there after he'd been at the front door. No one had answered, and the screen door was locked, so he just punched it out, reached in, unlatched it, and went in.
Now, he did tell you some things that he did differently than the Oteros. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what were some of those things?
He did not take his hit kit or some of the materials that he had taken with him on Otero. He did not cut the phone line, did he, like he did on Otero.
Now, and what he would explain to you later, that was the reason he didn't want it to be, what did he want the police to think?
He didn't want the police to make the linkage between the Otero murder and the Kathryn Bright murder. He wanted to change his M.O. so that the police would think this was a different crime committed by a different perpetrator.
Because Rader never wanted to get caught, is that correct?
That's correct.
Even during the course of the interview, he told you he wasn't planning on getting caught.
That's correct.
He just said he got outsmarted by law enforcement.
Basically, yes.
Okay, now this is a crime scene photograph of the Bright home from, what are we looking at here?
Okay, this is the back side of the house, and this would be, this picture depicts the screen door that he said that he punched the screen in order to unlatch so that he could gain entry into the house.
And then in the back there, inside the screen, that is what door is that?
That's a door that leads into like the kitchen area, the back area of the house. This picture depicts that door, and it depicts the glass that's broken out of the door.
And what did Rader say he did with the glass?
Well, he said he broke the glass and unlocked the door, went in, and then he actually tried to sweep up the glass. He was concerned that they might, or when she returned, she might enter the back door and she might see all the glass and that she might freak out and leave, and he wouldn't be able to accomplish what he wanted to.
And did responding officers indicate in their reports that the glass was swept up?
Yes.
Now, did Rader tell you what he did in order to get control of Kevin and Kathryn Bright?
Yes.
And what did he tell them?
He said that as they entered the front door of the residence, he had his gun out, and he told them that he was wanted in California and that he just wanted some money, some food, and their car. Told them that there were wanted posters out for him, and basically trying to put them at ease, just thinking that he was going to tie them up and then leave.
So he's lying to them?
Yes.
Because he indicated to you that his full intent was to kill Kathryn Bright.
That's correct.
And now that Kevin walked in with Kathryn, did he indicate to you what was going to have to happen with Kevin?
Yes, he said, he reiterated several times that he was going to have to get Kevin out of the way in order to accomplish what he wanted to with Kathryn.
All right, and what did he have Kevin do?
He had Kevin tie up, that's correct. He had Kevin tie up Kathryn, and then he tied up Kevin. He said he used clothing materials, bandanas, T-shirts, other items that he found in the house, nylon stockings. He tied Kevin up in the first bedroom directly to the left of the front door and tied Kevin to the bed. He then moved Kathryn into the other bedroom, and where he subsequently tied her to a chair inside of that bedroom.
Now, this is a photograph that was taken at the hospital of Kevin Bright, of his neck. And what are those marks that go across his neck there?
Those marks depicted in that photograph indicate ligature marks on the neck of Kevin Bright.
Now, up in here, as you can see it, maybe at the top, you see these little dots. Would that be what is referred to as petechial hemorrhaging? Or do you know?
I believe that's probably some stippling or some gunpowder that is in the face of Kevin from the gunshot injury.
So that might actually be blowback from the gun.
Yes.
Now, did he tell you what he did before he started to strangle, as he put it? Before I started to strangle him, what did he do?
Yes, he said that he turned on the stereo. He did that in order to muffle any strangling or gagging noises so that Kathryn wouldn't be able to hear what he was doing to Kevin.
And so this gives an indication that he knew exactly what he was going to do, and he needed to turn the stereo up so neither one would hear what was going on.
Correct.
And what did he say about Kevin? Did he say why he had to strangle Kevin?
He wanted to have his time with Kathryn, and so he had to get Kevin out of the way.
Kevin would be kind of a problem for him.
Right.
Would disturb his plan.
Correct.
And did he say what he was... he told you he had to get her out of the way before he did anything to Kathleen.
Yes.
And he uses the word Kathleen, the name Kathleen.
Yes.
And in order to get him away, did he say, to get rid of him, to get him out of the way, did he say what he did to Kevin Bright?
Yes, he tried to strangle him.
And did he say he had some problems with the items that he used to try to strangle him?
Yes, he said that because he hadn't brought his good stuff or his cords with him, that he had some problems with the clothing material, and that Kevin was actually able to escape, and they struggled.
Now, he started strangling him. Where did he tell you Kevin had his hands?
At the time he was being strangled, Kevin was tied up.
All right. So Kevin was tied, and he goes in to strangle him, and he says Kevin gets loose, gets to his feet.
Correct.
And what did Mr. Rader say he did then when Kevin got to his feet?
He said that when Kevin got to his feet, he'd brought two guns in with him. One was a .357 Magnum that he had in a shoulder holster, and one was a .22 pistol that he said he had tucked into his waistband. He said, I did one of those John Wayne things, and he showed where he grabbed the gun in his waistband, and then he pointed, and he went, And he shot Kevin.
He actually made the noise for you.
Yes.
And during the course of this interview, he would stand up and demonstrate to you the things that he did.
Yes.
Right? And during this, did you get a feeling as to whether or not Mr. Rader was sorry about what he had done?
No.
And would it be fair to say that Mr. Rader was actually very proud of what he had done?
Yes. He commented to me at one point, "I'm sorry, I know this is a human being, but I'm a monster."
And in this particular one, this man or coward that has killed 2 little kids compares himself to John Wayne.
Right.
And did he say what happened then?
He said that after he shot Kevin that he went down.
And he said to you, well, I thought, well, I got him.
Right. He thought that Kevin was probably dead at that point.
And at this time then, he could turn his attention to who?
Kathryn.
And did he say what he did? There's another quote back here, if you could take the time to read it. What he said he did then.
Yes, as he returned to the other bedroom where he had Kathryn tied up to a chair, at that point she was basically hysterical because she had heard the gunshot and was asking him, "What did you do to my brother? What did you do to my brother?" And he tried to console her and say, "I just wounded him. He's okay. When I get out of here, I'll call the police and he'll be okay."
Lying to them.
Right.
And she, Kathryn, being tied to a chair and hearing a gunshot and being told her brother was shot, she started to do what, according to Rader?
She started to struggle to try to get out of her bindings that had her tied to the chair.
And he actually told you she started going hysterical and going crazy.
Right.
And then did he tell what happened then? Did he give you a description of what happened then? There's a quote that I have back up in the PowerPoint. Now this is back at Kathryn Bright, is that correct, this quote?
Right. He returned back to Kevin to check on him, and as he came in, he kicked Kevin to see if he was still alive. And apparently Kevin got up and they started struggling again. And Rader said that during this struggle, Kevin was actually able to get a hold of his, and again, he showed where he had his .357 Magnum in a shoulder holster. Kevin was actually able to get his finger on the trigger, and they were struggling over the gun, and Rader was trying to keep the gun from discharging, trying to get his finger behind the trigger so that it wouldn't go off. And while this struggle was going on, that he pulled his .22 pistol again and shot Kevin again with the pistol.
All right, so we have two guns.
Correct.
All right, and what's the size of a .22 compared to a .357 Magnum?
Well, .22 is a smaller end of the spectrum, whereas the .357 would be, the bullet or projectile would be a lot larger on the spectrum of sizes of bullets.
Now, how big do you have any idea how big Kathryn Bright was?
I believe, according to reports, he was around 5'6", 115 pounds at that time.
And Rader would have been bigger than him, is that correct?
Yes, Rader had told us that after he got out of the service, he was around 5'10", 175 to 185 pounds.
So at this time, he's thinking that this 5'6", 19-year-old kid is going to kill him. He's going to get the best of him.
Right, he actually made a comment to me that, he's a big guy.
But he wasn't a big guy, was he?
No.
Now, the .357, did he indicate to you why he didn't necessarily want to use that .357?
Not that I recall.
Would it be because it might make too much noise?
Oh, yes, that's correct. He did make a comment about the .357 would make a lot more noise than a .22 pistol.
So again, this goes to the actual planning that he had in his mind. He actually thought about what weapon he would use.
Correct.
And again, we have I guess he liked to be a cowboy or considered himself a cowboy, but when he shot Kathryn Bright again, what does he say?
Again, he talks about, he says it was like in the Westerns. I just pulled my back up and shot Kevin again.
Yeah, but in the Westerns, they don't tie their victims up first before they shoot them, do they?
Not usually.
John Wayne didn't do that, did he?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. It's unnecessary.
Now, this is a crime scene photograph of Kathryn Bright as he was shot, right?
That's correct. That was taken at Wesley Hospital, and it indicates 2 gunshot injuries, one above the right lip area there, and then one on the right side of his forehead.
Now, there were some teeth found in the room that Kevin was tied up in. Is that
Right, I believe two teeth were found on the floor.
After taking care of Kevin, Rader said he went back to Kathryn again. Is that right?
That's correct.
And what did he say he did to her?
Well, he had her, he'd already tied her to the chair at that point.
And this chair, is this chair in the photograph here?
Yes, it's at the bottom right corner here of the photo, and you can barely see the chair. And right here where the pointer is was a nylon stocking, which was used to tie her wrist to the chair.
And now this is another photograph. What is this here now that you can see better?
This is the same bedroom. Again, this shows the chair, and you can see the binding material again. It's a nylon stocking, which is on both arms of the chair, which was used to tie her to the chair.
Now, right here in the corner is the door frame. Is that right?
Right. This would be the door frame right here. This picture, also, which you just circled here, shows a blood swipe, apparently from the struggle. And in the middle of the floor area was a large amount of blood where Kathryn bled inside of this bedroom.
And then there's a telephone back there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, did he say that you say that there was she bled, and did he indicate to you whether or not he had to struggle with Kathryn?
Yes.
And how did he describe this struggle with Kathryn Bright?
She started to struggle and was able to actually get loose from the chair, and they began to fight. He said that he had to strike her around the head area, trying to control her, and at the same time he was trying to strangle her with a piece of cloth that he had found inside the residence.
There's a quote behind you. You recall him making this quote.
Yes.
How did he describe how Kathryn Bright fought?
She fought like a hellcat.
And did he at some time during this fight, as when she was fighting like a hellcat with him, trying to save her life, did he indicate to you at some time he knew he wasn't going to be able to do what he wanted to do to her?
Yes. He was wanting to strangle her. That wasn't working because she was fighting and resisting. So at that point, he said he pulled out a knife that he had with him, and he used that to knife her with.
And he actually says to you in the red here, what does he say? When he realizes he's losing control of the fight.
There was no way I was ever going to do what I wanted to do, and I had to put her down.
And those are his words.
Yes.
And he said he went ahead and drew knives. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you're familiar with the case and what was collected by law enforcement at the scene?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach? I said that you were familiar with what law enforcement collected at the scene. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you're also familiar with the items that were removed from Dennis Rader's stuff, from his house, from his office, and things like that?
Yes, I participated in all of those searches.
I'm going to hand you what I've marked as State's Exhibit number 16. Do you know what, this is a bag, right, with a sticker on it, and it says there's a buck knife and a sheath in there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
This bag has been cut. You go ahead and reach in there and pull out what's in there.
This is a sheath holding a buck knife that was recovered in Mr. Rader's home. This was recovered in a closet there in his house, and this is one of the two knives that he indicated to me that was used to stab Kathryn Bright.
Okay. So when he described how he stabbed Kathryn Bright, he actually directed you to a place in his home where you could find the knife or the knives that he used.
That's correct.
And he described this as a knife he used on Kathryn Bright.
Right. He actually, during the interview, drew a picture of what the knife would look like for me.
And that picture, is it similar to that knife that you have in front of you, State's Exhibit 16?
Yes.
You can go ahead and put that back. Now, State's Exhibit 17 is in a Ziploc bag. Was this also found in Dennis Rader's home?
Yes, it was.
And what's the significance of State's Exhibit 17?
As State's Exhibit 17 was another buck knife that was found inside the living room area of his home inside of a bag. And this is a folding buck knife, and he indicated in the interview that it was either one of these two knives that he used to kill Kathryn Bright with.
And so that was collected at the home because he directed law enforcement to that, saying that might have been the one I used in Kathryn.
Correct.
Kathryn.
That's correct.
But he does indicate even in this quote here that he had knives
Yes.
and he had guns.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I move to the next State's Exhibit 16 and 17.
No objection.
They will be admitted.
Now, there's going to be some photographs here of autopsy that show the marks on Kathryn Bright's neck and face. This is a photograph taken at the autopsy of Kathryn Bright. Is that correct?
Yes.
And here that I have here, what are these along her neck?
Those are ligature marks on her neck.
We also see around her ear
Some bruising.
and on her face.
Some more bruising.
Okay, and when he said he decided he had to take her or put her down, did he indicate to you what he did in order to put her down?
Yes, he drew one of his knives, and he talked about how he stabbed her up under the ribs in the back area, he believed, and then at some point he said that he spun her around and stuck her in the front. And he believed that he had stabbed her 2 or 3 times.
He said he stabbed her 2 or 3 times, is that correct?
Yes.
But they did an autopsy on Kathryn Bright, is that right?
Yes.
And some photographs are going to come up here that show the stab wounds to Kathryn Bright. Here on this side, here with the cursor my left, what do those wounds show?
Those are some stab wounds on the lower back area.
And at least from this photograph, 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5, is that correct?
Yes.
Right, and then this photograph here to the other side, to the right, you see more. You see, this is from the hospital, is that correct?
Yes.
And then there were other stab wounds here on her front.
That's correct.
Now, you talked about this a little bit, so we'll go through this pretty fast, but he said he stabbed her under the ribs. Did he indicate to you why he did that?
Yeah, he would read detective magazines and other type of materials were describing how other killers had killed people, and that he believed he read one time in one of these magazines or books about how a killer used a knife to kill someone, and that you would use upward thrusts under the ribs, and that was the best way to kill somebody.
So again, he had done his homework on how to stab somebody.
Yes.
Now again, we have some autopsy photographs that depict 11 stab wounds to Kathy Bright.
Yes.
So when he told you he stabbed her, he thought 3 times, he was off a bit.
Yes.
And these are the photographs that show all of the stab wounds to Kathryn Bright.
Yes, I believe so. There were actually 7 stab wounds on the lower back area, and then 4 on the abdomen of Kathryn Bright that they discovered during the autopsy.
And these stab wounds, there was blood in the house. There was blood where she was found, and blood in that bedroom also.
Yes, she bled profusely.
And if maybe we should go back. You said there was blood in the bedroom behind the chair. She wasn't found in that bedroom, was she?
No.
The officer found her outside of that bedroom.
Just outside the bedroom in the living room area, which is just off of that bedroom area.
And she was clutching what?
A phone.
She was trying to call somebody, right?
Right.
And again, she was in a big pool of blood there.
That's right.
Now, did Rader tell you what he did after he shot this young boy or young man and stabbed this young lady?
Yes, he did.
And where did he go?
Well, he said that he booked it and got out of there, and then that he talked about how he went home and stashed his clothing because they were covered with blood, and how he eventually cleaned up the knife that he used so that no blood evidence could be found on that knife linking him to that crime.
Now, did he talk to you about what Kathryn was doing when she was stabbed and what he thought about it while he was stabbing her?
Yeah, he said that she was moaning and groaning, and he talked about how much she was bleeding and how he got blood over his hands, his shoes, his clothing, and talked about how that he didn't realize how slick human blood was.
And did he describe it as, he got blood on his pants and his shoes and stuff like that? He described it as being a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess.
And did he tell you what he did or what he thought about his shoes in relation to Kathryn bleeding all over him?
Yes, he said he had blood on his shoes, and he was concerned that he might have left footprints at the crime scene.
And now with blood on the shoes, he'd have to get rid of his suede shoes. Is that right?
Yes.
And did he?
Yes, he did.
And there's a quote here, he burned them.
That's correct. He first stashed them at his parents' house, he said, in the chicken coop. Later on, he had to burn those items because of the blood that was all over them.
Now, at this time when he's stabbing Kathryn, which turns out to be 11 times, is his attention then drawn to Kevin again?
Yes, he said that he heard a door open. At that point, he thought that perhaps the police had been called and were there, and that at that point he thought that the police were just going to shoot him and kill him right there on the spot.
And what did he decide he had to do? What did he tell you he had to do?
That's when he said he was booking it. He decided that he had to get out of there because he realized that Kevin had actually gotten up and ran out the door. He saw Kevin running down the street.
And did he tell you that he was somewhat disappointed how this murder turned out?
Yes, he indicated that shooting or stabbing someone is not what he called his forte, and so he was disappointed that this one had spiraled out of control and he wasn't able to completely do what he wanted to do there.
And what he would later describe to you and describe to all the other law enforcement officers that his forte, as he says, was strangling people and watching them suffer.
That's correct. He indicated that was his plan all along with Kathryn, was to tie her to the bed and strangle or suffocate her.
And this is a quote specifically about that. Is that correct? All of his murders were what?
Sexual. He called it sexual overt. He said that basically all of these people were going to die one of three ways. First, they were going to be bound. Then they would either be strangled, suffocated, or hung.
And that the only reason he knifed Kathryn was because he lost control of the situation.
Yes.
Now this, we've talked about it a little bit. This is a crime scene photograph of where Kathy Bright was found laying, right?
Yes, this depicts where she was found inside the living room area.
And that is the telephone that she had in her hand, is that right?
That's correct.
It's been hung back up.
Right.
And then this is the area here where she was found laying. You can see a towel and some blood on the ground.
Right, that's where she was found laying face down by Officer Landon, clutching the phone.
Now, did Rader tell you what would have happened if he made a mistake by not bringing his stuff in here? Did he tell you what would have happened if he would have brought his rope quality?
Right. He said that because of the binding material that he used, he wasn't able to control them like he had planned. Said that if he had brought his better ropes with him, that he would have been able to control them and that both of them would have died instead of just Kathryn.
And again, here's some strangulation marks on Kathy Bright, an autopsy photograph. The eyes have been blocked out, but this shows the front view of the strangulation marks, and it also shows the bruising on her face. Is that correct?
Yes.
Which indicates she was in a struggle.
Yes, and he did indicate that he struck her during that struggle.
Now, did he tell you that he had his plans further? Did he describe what his plans were for Kathy Bright?
Yes.
And he even actually had a fantasy that he had drawn out in what he called his mother lode.
Yes.
And was that collected?
Yes.
This was in what he called the mother lode. He had actually cut out the newspaper photograph of Kathy Bright that appeared in the newspaper after she was murdered.
That's correct.
Okay, and he had this clipping in his stuff.
Yes,
And his mother lode, as he calls it.
yes.
And he also had what?
He had a document that he called an April death that he said he had written shortly after this crime occurred. He, in this document, describes the murder of Kathryn Bright, the shooting of Kevin Bright, and talks about some of his fantasy that he had in reference to what he wanted to do with Kathryn.
And this is 7 pages typed out, just like this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's actually the first page of the document, and it's titled An April Death.
And this is, reading this document, it is clear in reading it that the person writing it is extremely proud of what he has done. Would that be fair to say?
I think that's a fair statement.
Now, he also had timelines in his mother lode or in his stuff about the murders. Is that correct?
Yes,
So he could keep track of them.
yes.
And here, what do we see?
This was in a notebook that he had. He would keep the years and the dates, and you can see January 74, and then down here 4 would be April of 74, and then off to the right he has PJ Light Out, which refers to KB, Kathryn Bright. And that, again, that was his project, or PJ name for her was either Project Lights Out or Project Light Out.
Now, we've heard about Dennis Rader's afterlife concept for the victims that he spent time contemplating. Did he have a plan for Kathy Bright in the afterlife?
Yes.
And what was that going to be?
His plan for Kathryn was to be a sex bondage girl.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Detective.
Any cross?
No, no.
All right, will this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.